Hello everybody and welcome back to another A Beginner's Guide to. This time we're looking at maybe a bit of a rogue favourite. I think this deck's really fun. This is the Festival Lead deck, and it is a single prize deck that is actually hiding a lot of power. It's maybe not got a great matchup into a couple of the decks that will be tier 1/tier 0 maybe, but we have tools to potentially fix that. So what are we looking at? We are looking at just so many cute little creatures. They're all grass types and we love them. First of all, we have the Applin into the Dipplin, which is an 80 HP grass type Pokemon with the ability Festival Lead. If Festival Grounds is in play, a stadium we'll talk about later, this Pokemon may use an attack it has twice. If the first attack knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon, you may attack again after your opponent chooses a new active Pokemon. It is attacking with Do the Wave, 20x damage for 1 grass energy. This attack does 20 damage for each of your benched Pokemon. Without modification, you're looking at 100 damage with a full bench. If it's hitting twice, it's hitting for 200. Not too bad, not too shabby, and that will knock out a couple of setup decks as well, quite realistically with how slow some of these setups are. We also have a 4 of Grookey into a 4 of Thwackey. Thwackey is a 100 HP grass type Pokemon with the ability Boom Boom Groove, gotta get. Once during your turn, if your active Pokemon has the Festival Lead ability, you may search your deck for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Are you seeing the combination? 4 Thwackeys on the bench and whatever else is on the bench. The other card we're going to talk about in a second. And a Dipplin in the active. You are able to find any 4 cards you want to get you exactly where you need to be. It is ridiculous. I wouldn't recommend going 4 Thwackey. I'd recommend going 3 with another Dipplin and the next Pokemon we're going to talk about, which is of course Rellor. Just kidding, but look at his face. It is Rabsca. Ability Spherical Shield. Prevent all damage from and effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to your bench Pokemon. This deck doesn't run Manaphy or Jirachi because Jirachi doesn't protect from Dragapult's 6 damage counters. So we do need a better solution, and Mist Energy isn't that solution in this deck. So Rabsca is what we've chosen. The ability is quite good, and the attack isn't awful either. I think it is absolutely usable in a pinch, but it is Manaphy and Jirachi rolled into one, plus the effects of Mist Energy. It is a very, very powerful card. And the deck has gone through some changes to make that work. Now, I just said there's no Manaphy in this deck list. There absolutely is. I lied. There's a Manaphy with the ability Wave Veil, prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. That's me not knowing the list. I put this list together. Forgot there was still a Manaphy in it. So theoretically, that Manaphy could be replaced. Anyway, we've got some Surge options in this deck. Also, we have a 4 of Buddy Poffin. Search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon with 70 HP or less. Put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. All of our basics are under 70 HP, so Poffin is huge in this deck. 2 Ultra Balls. You can use this card only if you discard 2 other cards from your hand. Search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. Very important for the evolutions later. Speaking of finding the evolutions, Bug Catching Set. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal up to 2 in any combination of grass Pokemon and basic grass energy cards. You find them, put them into your hand, shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Play 4 of those because we need to find stuff. On top of that, we also have Super Rod, 1 of, shuffle up to 3 in any combination of both Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. Being a small single prize deck, you will be finding knockouts very often. 1 Counter Catcher. You can only use this card if you have more prize cards remaining in your opponent, switching one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. I think that is a card we can bump up, I'm going to be honest. 2 switches. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. And into the stadiums, we have the 4 of Festival Grounds. Each Pokemon that has any energy attached to both yours and your opponent's recover from all special conditions and can't be affected by any special conditions. Not really relevant in the current format, but I think it will become a lot more relevant next format. And it's important to have in play anyway, so you can use Dipplin's attack twice. Into supporters, we have a 4 of Arven. Search your deck for an item card and Pokemon tool card, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. You know the importance of item cards. There's a lot of tools in this deck as well. That's why Arven is ram. 2 Boss's Orders. Switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. 3 of Iono. Each player shuffles their hand and puts it onto the bottom of their deck. If either player puts any cards on the bottom of their deck in this way, each player draws a card for each of their remaining prize cards. Kieran, choose 1. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon, which actually comes up a lot more than you'd think. Thwackey can get stuck in the active incredibly easily. Or during this turn, attacks used by your Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX and active Pokemon V, which, of course, if you're hitting into one Pokemon, translates into 60 if Dipplin is hitting twice. Our last supporter is Lana's Aid. Put up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon that don't have a rule box of basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. Again, we're running nothing but Pokemon that have no rule boxes, basic energy cards, so very, very good card to have. And into the tools, and we have a few of these because the deck needs them. Defiance Band. If you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent, the attacks of the Pokemon this card's attached to do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Again, with Dipplin, becomes 60 potentially. A-Spec is Maximum Belt. Attacks used by the Pokemon this card's attached to do 50 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX. 100 damage with Dipplin. We have 1 rescue board. The retreat cost of the Pokemon this card's attached to is 1 less. If that Pokemon's remaining HP is 30 or less, it has no retreat cost. Technical Machine Evolution, very important. I think you do want to go second with this deck. The attack is Evolution for 1 colorless. Choose up to 2 of your bench Pokemon, very important to do first. For each of those Pokemon, search your deck for a card that evolves from that Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it, then shuffle your deck. I can't say how many takes that took. That was really hard to say. 2 Vitality Bands. The attacks of the Pokemon this card's attached to do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Again, with Dipplin becomes 20, and there's a lot of Pokemon in the format have 220 health. Very important tool to have. And the energy counts is 6 Grass Energy. So, you can already tell what this deck needs to do, right? Fill up the bench, use Dipplin to attack. Rabsca is very important. If you can get that going, it's huge, and you can ignore the Rellor Rabscas if you can get away with just a Manaphy. It's a very simple deck. Anything that allows you to search is like really good, but I think the damage output on this deck is severely underrated. So let's just talk perfect world scenarios. Dipplin is doing 200 damage. If you are hitting into Dragapult using Maximum Belt, you're doing 300 damage. Using Kieran, you're doing at 360 damage. That is knocking out, I think, every EX in the format. Not a problem. Easy as pie. Charizard is already losing to this deck because of Do the Wave. It does 200, 200 to 400. So Charizard is just wiped out by this deck. It is kind of ridiculous. On top of that, of course, there are other maths that you can use. The Kieran 30 is very important. So it's Kieran plus Defiance Band is 60. On top of that, it's 120. So you can just get away with Defiance Band to knock out a Dragapult, for example. So the maths on this is kind of crazy. But if you know what you're doing, it's really easy to work out. Again, Kieran plus Vitality Band, 280. It writes itself. It's really good. Are there any changes I would make to this deck? Man, if I could get away with Manaphy and Jirachi, I would. But I think Rabsca taking 1 less bench space is kind of cool. Like I said, there are definitely changes I think I would want to make. The fact that you're running a basic single prizer means you are kind of playing from behind a lot, and you can put yourself onto, or put your opponent onto odd prize cards, so maybe running an extra counter catcher makes more sense. I think the 2 switched makes a lot of sense, again, with the fact that you can get stuff stuck in the active quite easily. There's no energy acceleration in this deck other than manual attach, which is fine because both Rabsca and Dipplin attack for a single energy, but the Thwackey is a 2 retreat cost Pokemon, so if that gets stuck in the active, you are kind of screwed. Yeah, like I said, I think potentially Maximum Belt isn't needed in the deck. I think you can reach the numbers absolutely fine with what you've got here. Maybe you actually include 2 of Kieran. Change the Maximum Belt for something else, like a Prime Catcher. That way you've got your switch option plus the extra 30 damage. I don't know, there's definitely a few ways this deck could go. Maybe an extra TM Evolution as well, because I think having the 1 prize kind of screws up any game plan you have against Dragapult. But yeah, I really like this deck, and I think it is a bit of a sleeper pick that will do a lot better than people expect. I don't think people are treating this deck with the respect it deserves. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been it for the Beginner's Guide to Festival. If you've enjoyed this, do let me know in the comments. If there's any questions you have, any suggestions, etc., do let me know. I will reply to them ASAP. Thanks for watching as always. If you enjoyed this, all my social media links are in the description below. I've recorded 3 of these today, so I'm hoping that will keep people going. If there's any decks you would like me to see me covered, I will cover them. I do have Miraidon, Lugia, and the other 2 variants of Dragapult I might cover as well. I think people know what they're doing with Lugia and Miraidon, but if people want it, I will get it done. Thank you for watching as always, guys. I'll see you in the next one. See ya!